Hello. This is a long, unedited video just talking about my thoughts after playing this game a whole bunch. So, this is something really good to just throw onto the other monitor and just listen while you're doing something else. That's the kind of videos I like to watch on YouTube, so it's also what I like to make. Anyway, I think it's really important in a review, if you want to call it that, to understand the person talking about the game. So let me just do you a favor and save you a bunch of time. I'm going to tell you the kind of things that I value so you can see if that's a perspective you even want to hear from, and the final verdict right at the start. We're kind of doing the whole YouTube game wrong around here. I do not care about things like story or whatever. I am a gameplay only kind of person. For example, I don't care about Borderlands 3 story. It did not make the game worse or better for me. Borderlands 2 story didn't really make the game that much better for me. I just don't care about it. I care about the gameplay. I care about, will I be playing this game a year from now? Is it satisfying to play? Is the grind fulfilling? Those are the things that will keep me playing a game for a very long time. Things like the story's woke, I think, are ridiculous criticisms that really don't matter at the end of the day. Borderlands 2 is a game you could play with the volume off and still think it's really good. Borderlands 3 is a game where if you try to do that, you'll still think it's awful. Anyway, my final verdict on the game is that it's pretty good, but pretty good doesn't cut it for this series. Also, it's really not worth the asking price. Okay, so let's actually get into an elaboration on all this stuff because this is going to be pretty long. I have a lot to say. So, before we talk about anything, we have to talk about bugs and optimization. This is one of the buggiest games I've ever played in my life, and this is definitely the worst optimized game I've ever played in my life. And no, I'm not going to talk about Randy or his stupid Twitter tirades because at the end of the day, he really doesn't matter. He's one guy in a studio that has like 10,000 people working on the game. There were about 20 people in every department that had to make a decision and okay it before it got to his ears. Which means, honestly, I don't even blame Randy for acting the way he does, even if it is stupid and unprofessional. He was probably told by people that he trusts that it's good because they don't want their boss to be mad at them. So all that being said, this is the worst performing game I've ever fucking seen in my life, and I think caring about Randy is a big distraction that just ignores the real problem. This game uses a lumen lighting system. In fact, this game, believe it or not, uses arguably the most sophisticated lighting system in any game you can buy today. It uses like full lumen everything. Someone tried to explain it to me, but I didn't really grasp the entire explanation, so sorry about that. I just know that all of my friends that work in game development say this game has the most in-depth lighting system pretty much ever. The problem is, it's just not worth it. You can look at this gameplay, it just doesn't look that good for the cost, or the optimization cost that it incurs. My friend that I was playing through a lot of this game with plays on a laptop. They have the mobile version of the 3080. This game, they had to run it at 720p just to occasionally get to 60 FPS. Seriously, this game is hard to describe how poorly optimized it really is. And let's not even start talking about the bugs because I'll be bringing them up later. Half of the skills in this game do not work how they're intended to. Half of the weapons in this game have interactions that cause them to, like, instant kill the entire fucking screen, which you're going to see a lot of in this gameplay. And excuse me. Nobody is even sure if some of these things are bugs, because Gearbox is so fucking terrified of the idea of nerfing things after Borderlands 3 and Helldivers that an interaction could be bugged, literally destroying the entire screen in a second, making the game no fun for anyone for more than a couple minutes, and they refuse to comment on it. Same thing with how half the skills don't work. Things like Vex hitting the negative damage cap because of the way bleed stacks are bugged in scaling, and they're just like, well, we're just not going to talk about that. Anyway, all that being said, this game is still pretty damn good. It is still a Gearbox Borderlands game. So, things in this game that really do tickle my fancy, because honestly, now that I'm thinking about it on the spot, there's actually quite a few. I love how much build variety is in this game. Borderlands 2, at the end of the day, if you wanted to play the OP levels, every single character was pretty much using one build. Some characters didn't even have a build cough cough gauge. Seriously, what the hell were they thinking with gauge? Whereas in this game, almost every single tree on every single character is a viable build that can one-shot and be immortal at the hardest content. So that sounds like it's good, but it's kind of a you think you do but you don't situation. You know Syndrome, when everyone's a hero, no one will be? Yeah, that's kind of what's going on here. When everything is overpowered and one-shots the screen and boss and is impossible to die with, you're not actually playing much of a game now, are you? I'll talk about the balance much later because I think it's a serious problem, and I can make a very good case as to why, but I think everything's in a really, like, good... They have a good framework. They just need to turn the notches down just slightly. So another thing that I really do like is the way the movement system works. This game has that schizo ADHD cracked out Call of Duty movement that I fucking love. Really, it's closer to Ultra Kill movement, but honestly, I think just about every game is improved by adding Ultra Kill movement. When movement is a skill in its own right, and you can increase the... Because think about it. The worst part of video games is usually the downtime, because most games aren't like Morrowind or Skyrim, where you can actually enjoy the downtime and it actually adds something to the experience. Most games, downtime is this right here, what you're seeing, where you are just like shittily holding W plus shift towards a map marker, which is something this game is fucking full of, by the way. I'll be talking about this later, but this game is way too much like an Ubisoft game. The open world was a horrible idea and was really fucking pointless. 90% of this game's gameplay is just walking from map marker to map marker, literally no different than Assassin's Creed, but anyway. So, I mean, you can see in these clips, I love how you can stack movement speed, slide to get a burst of movement speed, conserve that momentum with a jump. Just everything about the way the movement works in this game is amazing. You can reach so many quests. This is a speedrunner's like paradise game, because unlike Salvador rocket jumping in Borderlands 2, which is honestly brain dead and boring, this movement you can actually differentiate people who, you know, care to get good at it from how cleanly and smoothly they're making their slide jumps and whatnot. So, I would like to now focus on the gameplay for a bit. There is a lot to tackle here. And one of the things I have to tackle right away is I'm going to be talking more about the stuff I don't like because I have just more to say about it. You know, I could tell you I like the way the guns feel, but you and I both know that's meaningless bullshit YouTubers like to just put in their video to, one, pad, and two, just kind of stroke off the developers a little bit so they keep early access and stuff. I want to talk about the things that I actually have a lot to say about, which is unfortunately going to be mostly stuff I don't like because, well, I don't like it because I have a lot to say about it. So don't get it twisted. There's going to be a lot of negativity in this section. That's just kind of how it has to be. One of the worst objectives I've ever seen in a video game exists within this game. You know those objectives where you have to, like, grab a fucking thing in one hand and run back to the safe house? Also, do you see these stutters? It was in the previous section and I was supposed to talk about it, but I just forgot. Lol, maybe I should write scripts. But this happens all throughout this video. And it's not the video doing this. It's the actual game. It stutters. I mean, you can see it. It's stuttering right now. I'm on a 3090 with Ultra Performance DLSS. And it still stutters in just casual gameplay. But whatever, I digress. So, the gameplay has a lot of potential, but just look at what's happening on your screen. I am blowing up absolutely everything, and the only thing that can even remotely damage me is myself, frankly. And while I understand most people are looking for that power fantasy, Borderlands 2, apart from abusing bugs on Salvador, if you played through Borderlands 2 as, say, Commando, without abusing glitches like infinitely stacking kill skills or whatever, that game's actually really challenging most of the time. Sure, there's setups like the Bee and Pimpernel that can really, like, easily make things, you know, pretty brainless. But unless you've gone out of your way on YouTube, you probably aren't finding those things. That's an example of the movement that I really like, by the way. I used that double jump to conserve the momentum from the first slide jump, which got extra momentum from going down a hill. There's a lot of little variables to it like that, and I'm glad I was able to get a live example to show you. Just, like, somewhat close to when I was talking about it. So, anyway. The worst fucking objective I've ever seen is these goddamn carry things back to the safe house. I just cannot stand this shit. It is so mind-bogglingly shitty. Because you have a few ways of tackling it. If you're Rafa, these objectives are not bad at all. And you just get so much movement speed. You can like throw it, slide, jump, double jump, whip grab it in the air. Rafa can actually make those objectives somewhat fun sometimes. However, most characters aren't Rafa and don't have anywhere near the movement speed access that he does. And without the movement speed access, well, guess what? You're just shit out of luck. It's going to suck. And there's so many of these. There's like 20 of them. And every single time you have to walk like 600 meters. I was watching streamers try and do this that weren't playing Rafa for obvious reasons, and it was taking them on average anywhere from 7 to 20 minutes to figure it out. Because sometimes you have to get the thing over weird terrain. If you throw the thing above the terrain, sometimes you just lose the thing. It's all over the place. And it feels terrible. Now, you have to really ask yourself, what value does that even provide the game? Literally nothing. You can see this gameplay where I'm just going around getting these map marker objectives. I'm doing this for achievements. But how is this gameplay any different from Ubisoft gameplay? You open the map, mark an objective, and then try to run towards it as fast as possible. You do the thing that's marked on the map, and then you go and repeat that same objective 50 times. That is legitimately half of the gameplay of this game. If you're trying to 100% it, it's just miserable. And you know what makes this even more miserable, that that's such a huge part of the game? If you make a new character, your map progress doesn't save. Meaning you need to re-unlock every fast travel station, you need to redo every objective, and the reason why you have to do that is because this is how you get SDU card points, which are now a dedicated thing. SDU points come from these map objectives, and you need them for ammo. Yeah, it's not just an account-wide resource anymore like it was in Borderlands 2 and 3. Excuse me. It's now Ubisoft, climb this tower or find this feather bullshit, and you just have to do it every single fucking time you play a character. Another thing that really sucks is they made specialization ranks the new badass and mayhem point system per character. And I know this is bad, and I know this is probably going to get changed, hopefully. And I know not Borderlands, Gearbox didn't intend to do this, because if you literally go on their website when they announced specialization points, which the website came out, like this article was made a month before launch, they mention it being account-wide. In the like PAX Games interview, like 2 weeks before launch, they still mention it being an account-wide replacement for Badass and Mayhem points. Which means, literally, the idea to make specialists points per character was a very literal last-minute decision they made. They could not have made it later than a week before the game came out, and no sooner than like a day before the game came out. It was absolutely something they were talking about up until the absolute final hour of release. There is overwhelming evidence about this. The reason why this sucks is because no account-wide progression of any kind means starting a new character is basically like starting the game up for the first time again. And while there's nothing wrong with that, making that the default for everyone really takes away a lot of what Borderlands was about. So I know speedrunners and stuff don't care for these systems because they turn them off, but for 99% of the rest of us, it feels really good to know that if all this time I spent grinding on my main character, even if it's only like 7% overall damage, my other character can benefit from it and have a slightly easier time on the next run. Or, hey, maybe I want to join my friend and I'm a little bit stronger because of my time invested before. It's just a fun little bonus. But for some, and it's honestly been kind of core to the Borderlands franchise, considering every game has done this now except for this one and the first one. But even then, that's not entirely true because the first one had weapon specialization where you level up weapons. But I digress. It's not exactly the same thing, but still. And by weapons, I mean weapon categories. Now, the biggest hit to the gameplay and what makes this game... Because I'll be full disclosure. I wanted this video to come out like 2 weeks ago. I just got wrapped up with other stuff. And something in those 2 weeks, I've noticed this game go through a biblical fall-off. Nobody is really talking about it and nobody really seems to care anymore. And I think a huge part of that has to do with enemy variety. This game has none. Zilch. Zero. Every enemy is the same thing in this game. You are either a gun guy that tries to hide behind cover and shoot at you, or you are a melee enemy that brain dead sprints towards you and tries to hit you. Sometimes there'll even be flying enemies that are ranged guys and shoot at you, or flying enemies that brain dead dive bomb towards you. That's it. That's literally every enemy in the entire game, except for maybe like wardens. Literally every enemy. It doesn't matter if they're order, bandit, vault monster, boss fight. They are one of two things. They are a person with a gun that tries to sit back and shoot you behind cover, or they are monster melee thing that runs up to you and smacks you. Borderlands 2 has more enemy variety in one single faction than this game has in its entire roster, and that's not an exaggeration. Look at Hyperion. Ion loaders are completely dependent on their teammates, but they give them a nice little bubble. Constructors make new enemies. Not wardens, sorry. Those repair drones that fly around. They fly around and try to destroy your shields while repairing the shields of the enemies, and sometimes restoring their parts. The loaders have more variety. Like, seriously, gun loaders are a more interesting enemy than literally anything in this entire game, even some of the bosses. Shooting off an loader's arm, because you know its joint is a critical spot and can take away its damage output, means you can actually, it's not necessarily about killing loaders, it's about, you know, doing enough damage to disable them if you can't just wipe the screen. Which, a lot of the times, you really weren't doing that unless you were Salvador in the first place. So, this manifests itself in just a lot of boredom for me personally. Because, like, think about it. Nomads, Goliaths, there isn't even an enemy with a shield in this game. Now, that's not entirely true. There is an enemy with a shield. They're called, like, some stupid shit. They're part of the Order faction. They have a very weak energy shield that breaks after like 2 shots. Whereas Nomads, their shields didn't really break ever unless you were using explosives. So you kind of had to get a little bit creative with them or just ignore them. This game just, it really is, like, the more that I'm thinking about it, now that I'm talking about it, so much of my boredom with this game has to do with the fact that every fucking enemy plays like every other fucking enemy. Speaking of enemies and annoying things, the gravity thresher effect from Borderlands 2 returns as Singularity, and if you hated it there, you're going to hate it here. I have no idea why they brought this back. This is one of the most hated things in Borderlands 2. Everybody complained about how fucking annoying gravity threshers are. Yet for some reason, they decided in their infinite wisdom to bring them back. And not only bring them back, they brought them back as a dedicated modifier that can roll on enemies. One of the weekly badass whatever missions that this game tries to get you to play had it as a modifier where every enemy was dropping singularities. It wasn't chaotic, it wasn't fun, it was annoying bullshit, where if I killed a single enemy, it would cause a chain reaction of everything dropping giant suck portals, and I was constantly getting tossed around, unable to move for like 20-30 seconds at a time. It was unbelievably boring. Shoot once, blow up half the screen, be unable to move for 20 seconds, run to the next area, repeat that process. Does that sound fun to you? Because look, like, there's another one right there. When it's only one guy doing it, it's not that big of a deal. But if there's like 2 guys that get this and it becomes kind of unavoidable, it's also just a giant fucking buzzkill. You're zooming along, going from map marker to map marker because that's half the gameplay. And guess what? Oh, I now have to it's like getting caught in quicksand for like the next 7 seconds. Another thing that is really poorly thought out is vile enemies. They're just lame. I like the idea. They do bring back some of that loader-esque critical spots in various points of the body, but unfortunately they are completely immune to damage until you destroy like 5 crystals on them. This is just a glorified immunity phase, and I don't care what you tell me otherwise. Vile enemies are Gearbox's attempt to try and temper the fact that everyone is playing a build that one-shots everything. Can't one-shot enemies if they're invincible until you shoot them at least once to break all the crystals. And that's the other thing. This actually does the opposite of what they intend. This further compounds everyone playing stupid overpowered AoE builds, because stupid overpowered AoE stuff breaks the vile enemy's protection in one hit, whereas like an assault rifle takes a bunch of hits. I don't really have reference for how many. So it just further encourages you to just run around and play Salvador with the Norfleet, which is not something Borderlands needed more of. Now, another thing I need to talk about is the knife you've seen me throw, and if you play this game, I'm sure you've seen this before. There is a knife that turns every hit that follows the knife into a crit. You cannot defend this. I'm sorry, you just can't. I don't care if you are this game's biggest glazer and you're still in the honeymoon period and you still think this is like the greatest Borderlands game in the series. It's not. 2 is still definitely better. But something that you have to kind of realize is, how is the knife any different from throwing magic missile on every build? Because I don't think it is. I genuinely don't think it is. The knife is no different than farming the handsome sorcerer. Actually, no, it is different. It's even more annoying because farming the handsome sorcerer was at least moderately interesting. He was a cool boss. It was also quick. This is a world drop. So imagine if you had to get something as rare. I don't even know what to reference this to, honestly. So basically, imagine getting a world drop legendary in Borderlands 2, but a specific world drop legendary. That's basically what farming this knife is like. It has no drop sources. You can just, basically, you just pick a boss that has an easy respawn method, try to get a friend to stand there and, like, spam the respawn thing for you, and that's the end of that. You just do that. I have a friend who also makes content. It took him 3 days and about 30 hours before his knife dropped. Does that sound fun, spending 30 hours to farm this one item? And if you're like, well, if you don't like it, just don't use it, that's not really much of an option. It's more like if you don't have it, you just don't get to play the game when you're playing with other people, because one person using the crit knife gets to one-shot bosses and the entire screen, and if you are trying to build without it, you don't get any of those combos. It's disgustingly overpowered. It should not be a thing. It's the most obvious nerf I've ever seen in a video game, and I would also like to tackle this next. Never nerf, always buff is stupid, and I'm going to say something that I'm probably going to end up regretting because it's kind of mean, but if you think we should not be nerfing things in video games, who cares, it's a PvE game, genuinely, you are stupid, and please stop talking about balance. I'm sorry, but, like, it needs to be said. Borderlands 2, we all agree, is like the best game in the franchise, right? Do you know what the first update had in Borderlands 2? A nerf. In fact, it had several nerfs. It nerfed the be in conference call interaction. And this is widely regarded as the greatest decision they ever made for that game. Because, and this is the difference in just gamers as a whole, like as an audience, now that games have gone mainstream. The average person is unbelievably fucking entitled. And this really manifests in how they view balance. In Borderlands 2, for like the first month after launch, you could walk into Terramorphous' fight, which is the only real endgame content, with a bee in a conference call, and you could literally kill him in under 2 seconds. That is exactly what we have right now with this game. Throw the crit knife, shoot an underbarrel Molly-Wand shotgun at someone, and there you go, a chain reaction happens, and the boss dies. The only way around this is immunity phases. Everybody says the immunity phases in Borderlands 3 were a problem. And this is also just a little PSA to all you people that complain about Borderlands 3's nerfs. If you do not get to complain about immunity phases and complain about Borderlands 3 nerfing stuff. You just don't. Do you know why Borderlands 3 had a bunch of immunity phases? Because when they tried to remove the builds that could one-shot bosses, everybody threw a fucking entitled crybaby fit because they actually had to play the game now. So, that's happening here again. These bosses have immune phases. Like, some of them have a lot of immune phases, like Idolator's Soul can have up to 3. And the best way to try and play this game is to get so strong you ignore their immune phases by literally one-shotting them. It's the Borderlands 3 problem all over again. And I guarantee you the same thing's going to happen as Borderlands 3. They're probably going to try one single nerf as a bed testing thing. They are then going to get a whole bunch of backlash from literal entitled children about it. And then they're going to back down immediately and never nerf anything again. And then this game is going to go down as a proper sequel to Borderlands 3, where everybody after a few months got bored of constantly one-shotting everything and just decided to play other games. Because a game can't be truly great unless it poses some challenge. And a game can never pose a challenge if every player is walking around with an "I win, the entire screen dies now" button. I'm sorry if this sounds like kind of douchebaggy to say, very condescending, but I'm very sick of seeing people. Ever since Helldivers had its big fiasco, developers have been absolutely terrified of the word nerf, because a literal horde of ultra casual dad gamers that are opposed to the idea of putting in even 1% effort in a video game have universally determined that if you take their powerful toys away, they're going to spam you with death threats on Twitter. And naturally, a lot of developers don't want to deal with that. Sorry for the tirade about that. It's just a really fucking annoying thing. So, the biggest problem facing this game currently is there's literally no end game. There is literally no end game at all. People will falsely tell you that Borderlands games have never had an end game. I'm sorry, but you are just objectively wrong. Borderlands 1 did require DLC to get Cromerak, so you're right about that one. Borderlands 2 had Terramorphous, and then every patch afterwards added more endgame stuff. Terramorphous wasn't a whole lot, but hey, at least it was something. I'm not remembering if Borderlands 3 had takedowns at launch. I don't think it did. And Borderlands, the pre-sequel, Randy Pitchford fucking hated the director of that game, so he never let them truly finish it. That's why it only got one DLC and was super rushed. And what do you know? Borderlands 3, don't you find that funny? Borderlands 2, the most loved game in the franchise, was like the one that launched with an actual endgame. Because who the fuck cares about spending hundreds of hours grinding for those perfect items in that strong build if there's literally nothing to use it on? If there's no takedowns, which again, Randy has said takedowns are never coming back because Randy is a fucking stupid dumbass who doesn't know how to make good video games. Borderlands 1 and 2 were literally flukes. Gearbox... No, seriously, I'm not joking. Look at Gearbox's resume under Pitchford, and like, Borderlands 1 was a kind of good but somewhat mediocre game. Borderlands 2 was a very good game, and Borderlands 3 and everything else they've tried has been absolutely garbage. I'm not joking. Randy has like 9 misses and like 2 hits. It's actually insane how bad of a game director he is. Very much an example of failing upwards in life. So, you need an end game in a game like this. Who the fuck cares about grinding specialization levels? Who the fuck cares about grinding gear if you don't need any of it to one-shot everything in the game at the hardest difficulty? No, I'm like, seriously, do you care? Do you care about grinding for a better legendary class mod if you don't even need a legendary class mod to one-shot everything? Well, you're just grinding to one-shot harder. It's just irrelevant. So, I want to talk about, as they say in the corporate world, let's circle back. I want to talk about what I just said about Randy saying there's not going to be any takedowns in this game. Why? Takedowns were fucking great. In fact, takedowns were like the best part of Borderlands 3. Something everyone universally agrees on is that the Molly 1 takedown is like the best piece of content in any Borderlands game ever. Why aren't we getting more of them? He's never elaborated on it. He's just been like, no, I don't think we're going to do that again. Why? It was the one thing in that game everyone said was good. People complained about the rarity. People complained about how easy it was. People complained about the story. But do you know the one thing all of the player base agreed was amazing? Molly 1 takedown. And the 1 Iridian takedown they did. It had actual mechanics. It actually could challenge some of the strongest builds. It felt like, oh, okay, so I'm playing the game to get this loot, to get stronger, to grind, to do this takedown, which gives me the most XP in the game, has the best legendaries in the game, and I have to run through this hard, like, 10-minute gauntlet to get a chance at the boss, to get the best legendaries in the game. Like, and the thing is, if you want to have no nerf, only buff, please, make sure those overpowered items come from a difficult place. It's okay to have a blatantly overpowered thing in the game. It's not okay when that blatantly overpowered thing can be acquired with no effort. So, for example, imagine if all of the stuff that lets you set up one-shots, like, okay, imagine if the crit knife came from, let's say we got a takedown that was a vault. it was like you had to run through 3 vault gauntlets and all of their vault monsters to then fight like a super combined vault monster. And we ramped up the challenge of the enemies leading to their respective bosses. And then that guy had like a 50% chance to drop a crit knife. One, that would solve the problem of everybody of the farm for the crit knife being a miserable pain in the ass. And two, it would feel like you actually earned the ability to one-shot everything. That's the problem with Borderlands, with modern Borderlands. Nobody wants to earn anything because everyone is an entitled fucking baby now. Everybody wants to have a build that can one-shot everything, and they want to have it within, like, 10 hours of playing. If you tell them, yeah, you can have that, but it's going to take you, like, a couple hundred hours of grinding out equipment to get strong enough to take on the challenge that drops those kind of items, they will literally throw a fit and be like, your game fucking sucks, please fix. Which is just kind of an unfortunate reality of trying to make something popular. You know, generally speaking, popularity and critical acclaim find themselves at odds a lot of the time. So speaking of the gear that I was just talking about, this game has way too much RNG. Oh, you're about to see, I think I fucked this up actually because I don't shoot the floor. Yeah, I don't shoot the floor, so I forget to cause the chain reaction. But you can see what I'm talking about. Is there any challenge in this gameplay? I can't even see what's going on in the game. I'm literally just spamming M1 with the crit knife at this guy. If I did this correctly, where I shot the floor with that underbarrel and caused it to bounce a million times on the guy, I didn't fully understand the combo when I recorded this, but had I done that combo, and I do it a few times in this video, don't worry, I'll point it out when one comes up, but you see the boss just dies in a second. Anyway, this game has way too much RNG in terms of gear. And I know some dumbass is going to be like, ugh, complaining about RNG in Borderlands? You clearly don't understand, blah, 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 blah. No, you're the one who doesn't understand. In Borderlands 2, the most RNG you were dealing with was a 10% drop rate on an item. And once you had the item, that was really it. You didn't need specific rolls on it or specific parts. The only time you really needed this was the double penetrating unkempt herald. So if you just had an unkempt herald, that was good enough for most things. If you wanted to really optimize, you could go for the double penetrating version. Well, most people agree the double penetrating unkempt herald farm was really shitty. So they didn't just bring that back in this game, they brought it back and put it on fucking steroids. In this game, you don't just need to farm the drop rate, you also need... Oh, look, so remember what I just said? Watch this. How? Please tell me how you can make this boss challenging. How do you introduce challenge in a game where someone is doing that? And if you think that doesn't matter, how do you stay invested in a game if everyone all the time is just doing that? Notice Borderlands 2 didn't have anything like that, and the one time it did have something like that, it got nerfed out of the fucking... It got nuked from orbit immediately. Anyway. So, there are these things called enhancements, for example. Getting a legendary enhancement is, again, getting a legendary gear drop. So, you need to get like a 1 in like 300 thing to drop. And honestly, I think that's being generous. I think it's actually closer to like 1 in 1,000, maybe 1 in 10,000, honestly. Just from my estimation of farming them. So it's like a 1 in 1,000 kind of drop rate thing. And then it's a 1 in 6 on which manufacturer it targets. Then on top of that, there's 4... It chooses 2 of 4 possible skills to give you. So it's an item that has no dedicated farm, has like a 1 in 1,000 drop chance. Then you have to win a 1 in 5 to get the right manufacturer. Then you have to win a 50-50 on if it contains the things you want. Then there's an entire pool of double abilities that you're going to want. And there's like 100 of those. So you have to win the 1 in 1,000 to win... By the way, again, gameplay. Where's the gameplay? I've nuked the entire screen in a second. And this isn't the only build that does this. This isn't like an isolated incident. Anyway. So, like... This gets us to the point where you realize if you want to get a even half decent legendary like enhancement, you have to get through like a 1 in 10,000 to get it to drop. Win a 1 in 5 to get the right manufacturer. Win a 1 in 100 to get even just one decent secondary skill you care about. And then win a final 50-50 to get 2 skills. Not even 2. It's a 50-50 just to get 1 skill you care about. Then it's like a 1 in 4 chance to get the second skill you care about. So after all of that, you finally have your legendary enhancement. And it's like, that is like, sorry, I had to take a drink. That is like borderlining Nemesis Invader hybrid theory weapons levels of like RNG. And it's just fucking ridiculous. And the thing is, and this is the real kicker, but here's the kicker. Insert bunny gif here. Guess what? None of that shit matters, because what incentive do you even have to farm it? Because as I just showed you, you one-shot like everything. You nuke the entire screen and you one-shot bosses. So it's like, okay, well, you have all this RNG that makes you incrementally stronger for everything that you hit, but why does it matter when there's nothing to use it on? And even if you did add something endgame-wise to use it on, like you added a raid boss, I'm just going to one-shot it with or without those RNG items. So if you want to try and play this like a traditional Borderlands game where you don't just walk around and kill everything instantly, you want to play it like Borderlands 1 or 2, you have to deal with an in-fucking-sane amount of RNG. And even if you do deal with that RNG and you win those rolls, you still don't get to, like, enjoy it because there's nothing that will be able to stand up to you even remotely. Okay, so something else I want to talk about, because it relates to the fucking RNG still, is the parts system. The parts system is a gigantic W and a massive L all at the same time. The parts system is great. The implementation is horrible. So the parts system, if you don't know, means you can have like a Dahl assault rifle with like a Jacobs ricochet part, or you can have Molly 1 elementals on like an SNS extended magazine or something. This also matters for underbarrels, which this exponentially increased the combination of weapons. It also exponentially increased the RNG. If you want a Molly 1 shotgun, or really any shotgun with the particular underbarrel, there are some absolutely horror stories out there of people spending weeks to farm this gun that I'm using right now, the Kickballer, with the specific underbarrel that lets you cleanly one-shot bosses. And if you have one of those, GG, you've created the strongest thing in Borderlands. You have a chain reaction gun that can one-shot the screen, and an underbarrel that can one-shot any boss they could ever make for the entire rest of the history of time. So, you know, I'm sure playing with cheat codes like that is gonna keep people invested long-term. But I thought the parts system was going to be like, well, let's say you want a Molly 1 grip on this gun. I think the way the part system should work is there should honestly be a crafting bench where if you have a legendary, you can pull its parts off and effectively bank them. So if you get another legendary, you can then put those legendary parts on it. So what I mean by that is, let's say you want a enhancement with Jacob's extra ricochets. Then, by the way, crit knife. Then you get a legendary Jacob's enhancement that has that. Well, my proposed system here would let you pull that off, so if you get another one, you can then overwrite and put that on top of one of the things, like one of the other enhancements. Borderlands, it is long fucking overdue for Borderlands to have crafting. And just leaving it up to RNG needs to stop. Because this was fine in Borderlands 2 when it was just a 1 in 10 to get the item. Borderlands 3, do you guys remember? One of the biggest fucking complaints in Borderlands 3 was anointments. How are the parts system any different from anointments? Anointments sucked. You had to farm the same item, get it to drop like 50 fucking times before you got the correct anointment you want on it. Well, parts are basically just that. Think about it. How many crit knives have you gotten that didn't have the right part on it? And tell me, how is that any different from farming the one guy in Mayhem 5 or 10 or whatever for the Cowson? You had to get like the correct Cowson with the correct anointment. How is it any different? It's not. So these parts massively, massively increase the RNG. I've brought it up several times, but it really does bear repeating, the goddamn knife. If you just had to get a purple Jacob's knife to drop, that would be the end of it. But it's not. You need to get a purple Jacob's knife to drop with a rare part. And if you really want to optimize, 2 rare parts to get amp as well. This also has the end result of a purple weapon with a really busted part on it can actually be stronger than 99% of the legendaries in the game. Look at the purple Mali 1 shotgun. Oh, by the way, compiling shaders in a game that I've like over 100 hours in and have compiled shaders 15 fucking times already, still getting that to come up, still a good duck. Anyway, so I will say, apart from all of that like RNG that I'm talking about, the actual drop rates of things are fucking fantastic. So I love the feel of the loot in this game. So that was a whole lot of negativity. That was like 30 minutes straight of negativity. So let's talk about some more positive stuff. Oh, but real quick before that, imagine, like, you see how I'm moving this? Imagine if this was the only way you could move this and you had to do this 20 times. Like, tell me this is fun. Look me in the eyes and tell me this is fun after the 20th time you've done this. And then you have to do it again on every other character. So, anyway, this game makes loot feel great. The only real problem is that most legendaries are garbage. They are straight up worse than most purples. If everything in this game got nerfed and the difficulty was on par with Borderlands 1 and 2 and the legendaries felt like legendaries again, I would genuinely say this game recaptures the magic of the old games, which is an extremely high compliment. Because farming for a legendary feels good in this game. It takes a while. It's not something you can do immediately. There's very little downtime thanks to the Moxie's Encore machines, which is another thing I'm going to glaze here in a second. But anyway, the loot feels perfect. It's not as stingy as Borderlands 2. It's a little more stingy than Borderlands 1 could be with things like General Knox's armory farming. It's not as ridiculous as Borderlands 2 could be. But that all of that praise is immediately stifled by the fact that none of it really matters because, well, look at the gameplay in front of you. So, another thing that this game is long overdue to have on top of crafting, why can we not level items up with us? Look, I understand in the previous Borderlands games why it was like that. It was really fucking stupid in Borderlands 2 that you had to go through the OP levels. So, like, the Borderlands 2 endgame loop did kind of suck, but hey, at least it had one. You get to OP1, maybe OP2, refarm your items. Get to maybe OP4 or 5, refarm your items again, if it's a strong build and you're lucky. Get to OP6 and 7, refarm again. Get to OP8, and then the scaling gets so ridiculous you need to refarm. Get to OP9, refarm. Get to OP10, and finally refarm for the last time. It was not very well thought out. And this game suffers from the same problem. If you do get a legendary that you really like, well, guess what? You're going to have to re-get that legendary and re-get the same parts combination however later, whenever you want. Oh, also, you're about to see Rafa do something really cool and why I love the fucking movement system. Seriously, this shit has kept me playing despite all of the bad stuff. Watch this, watch this. This is fucking super sick. Look, we carry this momentum all the way over. Pretty cool. If I was better and I figured out the proper way to get a slide with this much increase in movement speed, I could have flung myself all the way to the safe house and skipped all of this. So I got to do something cooler than most people can do, but there's still a lot of room for improvement, which means there's people doing things even cooler than what I could do with it. That kind of thing really tickles my fancy. So we need some way to craft and some way to upgrade gear. It's non-negotiable anymore. And I know Gearbox knows this. They've literally said in pre-release interviews just a week before this game came out that regrinding your gear sucks, and it's something they don't want to encourage in this game. Well, you ended up re-encouraging it because for example, this all has to do with underbarrels and parts. I got a Jacob shotgun at level 10 that had an underbarrel 7 grenade launcher. I used that weapon all the way up to level 35 because it was still one-shotting things. And the level 35 shotguns I was getting just couldn't compete with that one underbarrel attachment. No, seriously, on my stream, I was one-shotting level 30 bosses. Well, not one-shotting. I was more like half-healthing. I was half-healthing like level 30 bosses with a level 10 weapon. It was ridiculous. This purple underbarrel that was 20 levels below where it should be was better than legendaries I was getting. It was absurd. So if you're going to have a part system with this much RNG, you also need a way for me to be able to keep this stuff. It just feels bad having to regrind gear. They are right. It does feel bad. But what do they do when they raise the level cap? Every item we have right now is going to be useless, and we're going to have to refarm it, directly going against their own statements. And I brought it up before, but I really do want to talk about it. Most legendaries in this game suck. Most legendaries in this game feel like purples in Borderlands 1 and 2, and purples in this game feel like legendaries in Borderlands 1 and 2. It's very, like, topsy-turvy. It's very weird. And I really wish this was rebalanced. I wish purples felt like purples again and legendaries felt like legendaries again. Especially because legendaries are far easier to farm than good purples. This is almost like Path of Exile 2. Where rares are so much better than uniques that uniques are just meme items most of the time. Whereas Borderlands is supposed to be a game about getting really good legendaries. Okay, so more glazing time. Replaying bosses is so fucking good. I want to make out with whoever decided the Moxie's Encore machine should exist. Though I do have some light criticism of it, I think they should be fast travel points. I don't see any reason to make you run through a dungeon to get to the Encore machine. Just let me go to the Encore machine. It would just be further quality of life. So there's about to be a whole lot of glazing. You can tell when I was ordering my notes for this video, I did negative stuff first, glazing next. So let me write this timestamp down. 46 minutes glazing starts. So the next probably 30 or so minutes are just going to be fucking hardcore glazing how much I like some of the parts of this game. You know, now that I'm thinking about it, I should really stop this recording and edit this so that this comes first. Because people are much more receptive to positivity than negativity. Negativity just makes them outraged, which is not really the goal of this. Oh, well, you live and you learn. Hopefully people actually get this far and don't rip my head off. Okay, so Moxie stations are fucking awesome. The quality of life in this game is fucking amazing. I absolutely love being able to replay a boss. It's good for farming with friends. It just makes everything better. Borderlands was so annoying before where you had to save, quit, rerun back from the fast travel point, go back to the boss fight, save, quit, have your friends rejoin you. You basically could not farm with friends in Borderlands previously. In fact, it actually made co-op really hard in Borderlands because you could play co-op through the story mode, but pretty much everything after the story mode was exclusively single player. Because how the fuck are you going to farm with another person when, one, you're both competing for the same drops, and two, you're constantly save quitting and rejoining one another? The only things you could even moderately farm with friends were raid bosses, which is another reason why endgame matters. Though I will say they did really fix that issue with these Encore machines. It really does feel good. So, I wrote down one final negative point. The endless treadmill of small upgrades is dumb. This game is constantly, it feels like it's designed to try and hook you and keep you playing forever by constantly jingling keys in front of you but look, if you farm for another 10 hours, you might get another 5% damage boost if the RNG lines up. And everything in this game is subject to that, but whatever. Rep kits are great. Best innovation to the gameplay they've made. Rep kits are fucking awesome. I love how they can be used for pure defense if you're struggling, or pure offense if you want to try and snowball harder. I love this new equipment item. I think it adds a lot of depth to the gameplay. It gives you a way of healing that isn't overpowered, because in previous Borderlands games, so much fucking healing was just blatantly goddamn overpowered. It was stuff like Salvador Life Leech or Grog Nozzle or whatever, where you just constantly go from 0 to 100. Well, rep kits actually feel like a genuinely balanced way to heal yourself. And because of the buff system that they apply as well, you can also get that extra level of depth on, do you want a defensive rep kit that makes you take half damage for 10 seconds, or a rep kit that gives you 200% damage on your next shot, or maybe a utility rep kit that gives you your action skill back faster. Genuinely god tier edition. It was great for the sandbox. Firmware is also great. I'm shocked it took them as long as it did to make sets for Borderlands. And the fact that these sets don't feel like they're limiting at all because you can put them on like 5 gear pieces feels great. They have substantially impactful effects, though they are the balance is a little whack, but that's okay, that can be fixed. Look at Deadeye. Deadeye gives you double critical damage. Look at God Killer. It just gives you like 20 base damage for killing a badass. What would I rather use? Double my crit damage or 20% base damage? Yeah, I'll take double crit damage. Thank you very much. However, I don't even think rep kit should give you damage. I'm sorry, firmware. I don't think firmware should even give you damage. I'm going to be honest with you. I think firmware buffs should... Oh, yeah. You just got to see another bug right there. For some reason, the thing did not increase at all, but whatever. It's still finished, so it's not that big of a deal. I think firmware should just be things like utility, like action skill, cooldown, movement speed, etc. Once you start getting damage involved, that becomes the only thing that really matters. So, bosses are so fucking good. Seriously. Bosses are so good, it's like orgasmic in this game. When you aren't one-shotting them, and when you're playing through the story for the first time, these are actual boss fights. Bosses in Borderlands have always just been enemy archetype here, but bigger with a big health pool and does a lot more damage. Now they feel like actually unique entities with real mechanics. Idolator's Soul is my favorite boss fight in this entire franchise, because he plays out more like a Destiny boss than a Borderlands boss. And honestly, saying Borderlands had bosses was really generous, because Borderlands 2's entire idea of a boss fight was enemy but bigger. Literally, just triple their health pool, make their model bigger, and double their damage. That was 90% of the enemies in bosses in Borderlands 2. Only the raid bosses had any sort of unique boss mechanics, and they were heavily praised because of it. This praise does get shorthanded by the fact that the balance is so bad you'll never see any of these mechanics because the boss will be dead before they even get their first attack off. Yes, this is why balance is a problem, by the way, and this is why I will not shut up about it. How do you get me to engage with Idolator's Soul and his boss mechanics if you also want me to be one-shotting him all the time? Why even bother investing time in bosses and making them cool and have real fight mechanics that you have to engage with if you just expect the players to one-shot them? It doesn't make any sense. Which is why I'm certain they did not expect the power level to be this high. So, every boss has good mechanics like this, and every boss is interesting to fight. Because it's very rare for a boss fight to just boil down to stand there and shoot the critical spot, which unfortunately was 90% of Borderlands 2's boss fighting. This combined with the Moxxi's Encore machine, I'm going to say something. I genuinely think my first playthrough of this game was perhaps the best Borderlands experience I've ever had. When everything wasn't overpowered, you actually had to engage with everything, you actually had to take your time, and you weren't just flying through the game at 1,000,000 miles per hour. Like, try telling me your first fight with Idolator's Soul wasn't better than the millions of fights where you one-shotted him afterwards. I just don't believe it. And that brings me to my next point. This has the potential to be the best Borderlands game of all time. The loot is good. The world looks pretty nice, though that could use some improvement. I'll talk about it later. They didn't fuck up the characters. They didn't fuck up the story. This game has no major fuck-ups other than the balance. It is absolutely critical for the health of this game long-term that Gearbox does what they did with Borderlands 2, and they say no. No one-shotting, no screen clearing. You're actually going to have to slow down and play through the game, engage with the enemies. And then if they did a pass-through to make the enemies actually interesting, that would be it. This would be the best Borderlands game. So, like, for example, I remember running through this city that you're seeing on the game right in front of you, the screen. I remember running through this city the first time I got here with just a regular-ass assault rifle and a regular-ass Rafa build. And do you know what it genuinely reminded me of? It reminded me of the Iridian Climb in Borderlands 1. You know how after you get the vault key back, you get the vault key stolen from you in Borderlands 1, you have to go through that Atlas safe house and then go through that Bandit Atlas war area. Then you go through the, what's it called? Then you go through the Iridian Climb and stuff with the Guardians, and it's just a non-stop onslaught of really powerful enemies all the time, and you barely feel like you're skating by killing them. Yeah, well, that's what this city felt like for me. It's so densely packed with enemies. I had to respond to so many things. There was, like, real challenge there. And I was having the time of my fucking life. Me and my friend had so much fun just running through this. Unfortunately, as the meta matured and the game like evolved, it now has devolved into what you're seeing before you, where you just run at 500 miles and blow everything up. So, this game, and to put this into perspective for you, this game is starting at a higher power level than Borderlands 3 had. People love to say stupid shit like, Mosey had a fun build in Borderlands 3 where she throws unlimited grenades. No, she had an overpowered build where she threw grenades nonstop and it killed the entire screen. Yeah, it's fun for like a minute, but after a day of that, you're like, oh, and I just mashed the same button and everything dies. Did anybody who was mad about that Mosey nerf, how long did you play the build for? Genuinely, I'm genuinely asking, I'm curious. How long could you play a build where the gameplay is press one button and the entire screen dies and you never do anything other than that? Like, how long could you play that before you get bored? I genuinely want to know. Okay, so let's talk about something else. So, let's talk about the story for a minute. The story in this game is just kind of mid. They were very careful not to repeat Borderlands 3, which is fine, but this game has a villain just as stupid as Borderlands 3 did, but nobody talks about it. And sorry for tangenting for a second, but I really don't like how this has become the discourse on Borderlands games. Here, and I'll talk about this in a second. Transition. Hey, what's going on, Internet? Ray William Johnson here, if equals 3. Anyway, so as I was saying, I fucking hate how the discourse surrounding this game has just turned into just straight up retarded internet grifters talking about how woke it is nonstop. Like, okay, I get it. Borderlands 3 did not have a good story, and the main characters were like quippy Marvel streamers. They were annoying. These dudes are still, I get comments talking about this game. They're like, oh, it looks fun, but unfortunately, Borderlands 3 was so woke, I'll never buy another Borderlands. I'm like, dude, fucking shut up. It's been how many fucking years? And it's, oh my god, this stupid internet grift of just calling everything that you don't like woke. And it's so annoying. Half of the reviews of this game have started with people saying, and guys, it's not woke this time. We won. And I'm just like, dude, shut up. Like, is that genuinely all you fucking care about? It's just, like, consistently been a thing. Like, the only thing people have been wanting to talk about in relation to Borderlands. Seriously, search up Borderlands 4 woke, and there's more people talking about that than if the game is good or worth playing or not. And it's just like, we have completely fucking lost sight of what video games are about. Anyway, so all that being said, the story is pretty bad. RJ is a really stupid character. You are introduced to this guy called RJ at the start of the story, and he, like, breaks you out of prison or whatever, and they try to make him seem like a really cool, down-to-earth guy that's going to be your friend throughout the story. And then the timekeeper makes you kill him, and you're supposed to, like, hate the timekeeper from this. But this is Fallout 4. So this is how I know this game is a bad story, because they're doing that thing that Fallout 4 did, where they introduce you to a character and try to, within, like, literally 30 seconds of meeting them, make you understand everything about them and feel really sad when they die. But, like, just like in Fallout 4, I don't care about my family in Fallout 4. And no, like, 3-minute long intro sequence is gonna make me care. No 1-minute long intro sequence with RJ is gonna make me care about him. He is then completely absent throughout the entire story until the literal end of it, where he is revealed to be a post-game, like, boss, and he's probably, like, going to be DLC of something. And it's just like, dude, this is so stupid. I don't care about this character. And it makes no sense why the Vault Hunter, the main character, all throughout the game is like, I'm doing it for RJ. What, this guy you've known for a total of like a minute? You're gonna risk your life for this guy that you've known for a minute? Like, what? Are you stupid? And this brings me to another point. I am sick of the retcons to being a Vault Hunter. I miss when being a Vault Hunter in Borderlands 1 was just, you're a guy, you're a mercenary on Pandora that's looking for the vault, and you survived more than like a week. I miss when that's what being a Vault Hunter was. They literally, like future Lilith from the future, who makes an appearance at the end of the game, literally tells you that, like, a Vault Hunter is a force of the universe. That, like, whenever there's a cosmic imbalance or an evil in the universe chooses people to become Vault Hunters to, like, set the universe straight. And I'm like, oh my god, this is the cringiest fucking thing I've ever heard in my life. It's just like, okay, so fucking, I guess every action from every character in every Borderlands game was preordained by the universe to set events into motion. So you're telling me the story is only happening because of an esoteric entity making the story happen. So what's the point of the story then? If the story is an adventure that's already been decided and determined by the universe, whatever that means, then there is no story and there is no universe, and nothing we do matters because nothing was in our control. It was predetermined if we were gonna win or lose. It's just dumb. It's just dumb. Also, you can no longer deny Lilith is a Mary Sue. So we thought that Borderlands 3 killed off Lilith. Which, okay, cool. But they bring her back in this game, and they don't just bring her back. They bring her back as a literal goddess-like figure who, at the end of this game, is revealed to be the only thing that survives until the end of time. Okay? I don't even know what to say about that. Remember when Lilith was just a siren? Literally, there's an entire third of this game you spend with Amara in the snow area, and she does nothing but talk about how Lilith is literally the most powerful person in the universe. And it's just, it never stops. She has no flaws. Nobody ever mentions anything bad about her. Every fucking character, Moxie, even Moxie, like, absolutely is head over heels in love with Lilith. When Lilith gets recovered, she's like, oh, poor baby, let me take care of you, blah, 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 acting like borderline motherly to her, which is something we've never seen from Moxie before. She's been, like, kind of flirty, kind of cold. Her motto is literally, like, be distant, you know? Don't get too attached to things. That's literally her motto in all the games. She goes on about how, she's like, Sugar, you really need to learn when to keep distance from people so you don't get too attached. That's how people can hurt you. Which is something she learned from Handsome Jack. But that part of her character has just completely fucking regressed. And now she's just, like a mother figure for Lilith, I guess. It's just weird. It's just weird. It's just like, why? It adds nothing to the game. Amara constantly talks, oh, Lilith is the strongest person ever. Lilith is the strongest. Lilith can fix everything. Lilith can phase walk planets. Lilith can redesign the universe if she wants. Lilith survives to the end of time, redesigning the universe. And then Moxie is like, oh, Lilith, you're the nicest, best person I've ever seen. And it's like, I swear to God, Randy Pitchford has a fetish for Lilith in particular, and he, like, pinned on a whiteboard that everyone had to read when they walked in, Lilith is the bestest and greatest character of all timest, and you will respect this. Because that's genuinely how the characters react to her. But anyway, so they also ruined sirens in this game, because the 6 siren limit was a little limiting, so they are kind of moving past that now by making it like, for example, Harley or whatever, Harlow, whatever her name is, she's able to recreate siren powers with complete 100% accuracy with machines because she like saw sirens or something when she was a kid. It's really dumb. The point is, siren powers are no longer special and can now be replaced with a machine. They're also probably going to do away with the 6 siren limit in the next game. Don't be surprised if Borderlands 5 we find, like, a planet full of nothing but sirens. That's probably going to be the next big plot twist. Or don't be surprised if sirens are just, like, an evolved state of the Guardians. And that's how they reincorporate them into the story to tie off their storyline. Because it's just, like... it just doesn't make any sense. They also talk about how siren powers... happen. They aren't powers. There's literally a phase dimension, which is just purple wavy goo shit. And it's like, this is where sirens draw their powers. It's like the warp in Warhammer. I'm not even joking. It's literally the same thing. There's literally a time when you travel through it, and I was joking, oh, we're about to travel through the warp like it's 40K. It's just dumb. It's just genuinely stupid. It's just bad writing. I'm not even going to talk about stuff like plot holes or just like... oh, no, I am going to talk about one plot hole, the Timekeeper. The Timekeeper is such a stupid villain. So, the Timekeeper at any point in the story can take over every single main character that isn't a reoccurring character. So, like, he can't take over the characters from Sanctuary, like Moxie, Zane, Lilith, Amara. Characters that broke through the planet's barrier or whatever with Sanctuary when Lilith phase jumped the moon in Borderlands 3. Those characters they don't have this thing called a control rod in them. But characters that do have a control rod, including your character, by the way, and literally everyone that lives on this planet other than the previous returning characters, they can be controlled at any time by the Timekeeper with no chance to resist. You kill RJ, and there's another scientist lady character that I actually quite liked throughout the entire game. I quite liked her a lot, actually. And near the end of the game, you kill her. Because the Timekeeper takes you over and forces you to do it. Now, you, naturally, if you aren't like a dumbass, have to ask the question, well, why doesn't the Timekeeper just do this and just win? And yeah, that is a really fucking good question. Now, you could make the argument that he does not want to... he wants people to be controlled willingly. Because he literally says as much during the main quest. However, when the scientist lady, who's like his lover, returns and betrays him, he literally says, the problem is humans, it's time to take a more aggressive approach. And when you go to the final boss battle, he literally takes over every character other than like Zane, Amara, and Moxie. Literally everyone on the planet, he takes full control of them. Okay, well... he just then does nothing with that while you're fighting. He doesn't even go, like... he doesn't take control of you and, like, tell you to, like, hey, stop or I'm gonna make you kill yourself. He doesn't, like... he threatens to have all the main characters kill each other. Like Rush and Levine and all those people. Have all of them kill one another. But he never does it. He just politely waits for you to have your battle. And I guess he's gonna do it after he beats you. Which is crazy, because if he's truly a depressed, ancient guy that's millions of years old, he should have absolutely no attachment to the concept of human life. He should be like, oh, you're going to oppose me? Okay, well, all of you die. He just snaps his fingers and all the characters should die. They should all kill themselves. And honestly, I 100% think they should have done that. Could you believe what a moment that would be? You finally finish the fight, you're finally going to the end of the game, and then boom, every character that you've gotten used to and you like, because all the characters are quite charming. I like Rush, I really like Levine, I think the augurs are stupid as fuck. I'll talk about them in a second. But, like, if Rush kills himself, and then Levine kills themselves, and they, like, hit you with that final you did this message... I would have been heartbroken. I would have been like, oh my god, this is super, I can't believe they did this. But of course, they were too fucking cowardly to do this, so instead, the Timekeeper takes control of them, makes them put guns to their head, as you see in the final cinematic, and just keeps them like that for however long your battle takes place. Okay, that's stupid. It's just dumb, it's just bad writing, it's fake stakes. You cannot create a villain like this that has the ability to snap his fingers and control every action of everyone and then try to make a way for him to lose. It just doesn't work. Like, it just doesn't work. I'm sorry. It's bad writing. Honestly, what we should have done is, like, at some point we should have given the command bolts to the scientist lady who could have created a shield to, like, prevent the timekeeper's control. So when because his whole thing is control. He's an abusive person that needs to control people. Ironically, if the timekeeper wasn't, like, having mental problems and he wasn't, like, abusive and controlling, he'd actually be a good guy. He's an ancient entity just trying to do his job and keep this vault closed that he needs to keep closed for whatever reason, which they never expand on, by the way. We just have to assume that's going to be DLC. But anyway, so, like, to top that all off, he just legitimately just wants peace. But he tries to achieve that peace through absolute control. That's why his faction is called Order. If he could just relinquish the control, which would make him not abusive, and if he would just kind of let things play out but try to, like, push them in the right direction, he'd actually be a really good and sympathetic villain. But instead, he is this overpowered ancient entity that's, like, primordial, started with the existence of time, and has the ability to snap his fucking fingers and just instantly win, but chooses not to because I guess he's just stupid. Alright, let's see. What else did I write down here in my notes? I wrote down some more notes about the story. Yeah, okay. So it's never explained why he doesn't just win. Never. At any point in the story, he's constantly flexing his absolute control over everything. But then it's like he lets you win at the end. And this isn't even some, like, 5D, because he's shocked when you kill him when in his, like, vault monster form. So clearly he wasn't like 5D chess, I'm just going to reverse time and bring myself back or something. Like, I don't know. He's just a bad villain. He feels very rushed. He has none of the charisma of Handsome Jack. He has none of the reasoning of Handsome Jack for being evil. And honestly, can you even really say he's evil? Like, I guess you can if you start really breaking down his actions. Honestly, he just seems like he's a bit of a control freak narcissist that's depressed and given up on life. That's kind of just what he seems like, I'm not gonna lie. Which, I don't know, man. I'm not gonna, like, that doesn't make me hate the guy. That honestly makes me feel bad for him. It makes me feel like, damn, if he didn't, because he even says this, that, like, everything was going perfect until humans arrived. He, like, had a wife, you know, he was getting steered towards the right path, and then his wife betrayed him, and humans kept being uncontrollable, and, like, he existed for billions of years totally totally fine, no problems, no weirdness, no nothing. Then people start showing up, fucking up his plans. He falls in love, and then his love of 1,000 years betrays him. Yeah, man, I'd be pretty fucking jaded and depressed too. I'd be like, you know what? People fucking suck. Especially as this, like, post-human being that, like, can't understand people and why they do the things they do. Dude, I'm autistic and I already don't understand people, like, to any degree. People say I sound arrogant and, like, egotistical when I'm like, no, man, I'm just, like, reciting a fact off a sheet. You know? And I'm like, I don't understand why you dislike me or feel this way towards me. And it's just kind of confusing to me. I could only imagine if you were, like, 1 billion years old going through that experience. Yeah, you'd probably turn into a control freak too. I don't know. I just think he's a really poor villain. And it's not like the supporting cast of villains are any better. Idolator's soul is just dumb. He literally creates this thing called Locus, which can instantly destroy any biological matter. And instead of he's trying to get in the Timekeeper's good graces. And he thinks the way to do that is to destroy this rebellion happening in his territory. Okay, well, why don't you just, like, nuke them? Why don't you just strap like 70 of them to a missile and just shoot it at their base? It's not defended. It's not like Sanctuary. See, Borderlands used to have intelligent writing like in Borderlands 2. Handsome Jack, although it was a bit of a plot hole that he never destroyed Sanctuary, they at least explained away that he couldn't moonshot Sanctuary to death because, like, there was a shield protecting it. So he tricks you into putting in a bad power core that he can turn off, and then he starts to destroy it. So it's like, okay, it doesn't explain why he can't just moonshot in like 50 constructors and have them attack. Maybe he thinks the Crimson Raiders are strong enough to fight that off. I don't know. Who knows? But the point is, like, they at least tried to explain why Handsome Jack just couldn't win. Idolator's Soul, like, it's heavily implied that he's been making the Locust for a long-ass time. The Timekeeper literally comments that he should be thanking you because Idolator's Soul has had the ability to destroy this rebellion. He's just been too lazy to do it this entire time. And that we finally gave him reason to go for it. So, like, even the Timekeeper, like, directly tells you that, like, oh yeah, this minion just sucks. He's had the ability to destroy them with the Locust forever. He just hasn't done it. Why? The Ripper Queen is also a pretty poor character because her whole thing is that she's, like, trying to become a siren. And her story is not explained. The Ripper Queen is definitely going to be DLC. Also, they reused this fucking boss fight. Thank you, Gearbox. Anyway, so, like, the Ripper Queen wants to go to space to try and get into the meteor to try and, like, enter the phase dimension to become a siren. Okay. I don't know. I mean, that would be the retcon of all motherfucking retcons if that actually worked. Like, seriously, that would be an unbelievable retcon if that actually worked. So I really hope we don't get a story about her entering the phase dimension and walking away with siren powers. That would be, honestly, that would kill the Borderlands story for me entirely. It would literally enter unsalvageably bad territory if that happens. But anyway, and that seems like where it's going. You fight her in her base. They do actually explain why no one found her and why the Timekeeper can't stop her. Because she created like a disruption field so the Timekeeper can't find her. And and that's what the bandits are in this game. They're people that are mentally crazy because they had the control bolt ripped out of them, which damaged their psyche. They actually have a really good reason why bandits exist on Kairos. So, like, genuinely kudos. That's, like, the Rippers are actually the most well-written thing in the game. Which is really funny. Because remember on Pandora, that's just how things were. We didn't need them to exist. We didn't need a reason for them to exist. They just did because they were stranded by Dahl. And how else are you going to make a living as a mercenary if no one's paying you? Well, you turn to stealing. Which is exactly how highwaymen came to be in real life. So you know what? Actually good writing. Anyway. Oh yeah, like right here. You see how I just went through that, like, purple thing and teleported? Yeah, this is the phase dimension. I don't know why it looks like fast travel. But that's like a phase portal. You enter it and you phase walk to another area. So I guess we're just doing siren powers for everyone now. Which, okay. Good for gameplay, awful for a story. Do I have any? Yeah, no, actually I do. So when you get to the moon and you fight the Ripper Queen, she, like... So you kill her on the ground, like, in her fortress. Then... Oh, God, excuse me. Sorry, I have a really bad cough from a condition. Anyway, so then you, like... You kill her in her fortress, and you then kill her again on the moon. And she's like, oh, fool, that was only my mortal physical vessel. Oh, so I guess she's like a lich and is just going to keep coming back. Which, okay. That's not explained, by the way. They never reveal that or go into detail about that. That's why I assume it's going to be DLC. Which, okay. I don't think you're allowed to give a character powers that have never existed in the setting before and then explain it away with post hoc content. I think that's like literally that's not lamp shading, but that's like literally the definition of bad writing. We created a new thing that's never existed in the story, did not elaborate on it or explain anything, and are just going to save that for post-game content, like DLC. Well, I'm sorry, but you kind of need to explain that. They didn't even say it like, oh, she has, like, she uploaded her consciousness to a robot body. No, they didn't even say that. They just literally said nothing about it and just expected you not to question it. Like, literally typical Hollywood style writing. It's very annoying. So then we get to the next big bad, Vile Lictor, who he wants to enter the phase dimension because he thinks it's going to make him an immortal god. Which, honestly, given the writing so far, he's probably right. But unfortunately, to get to him, we have to deal with the augurs. Now, I will say, wow, hold on, something else I should say. Rush is a great character. So when you're dealing with Idolator Soul might be a dumb villain, but, like, you know, he might be a dumb and bad villain, but Rush and the Outbounders are so good and so fucking likable that they genuinely carry the first like third of the game. I'm being serious. Whoever wrote Rush and the Outbounders, give yourself a fucking pat on the back, dude. I'll give you a fucking, like, it's like Angry Cops, okay? I don't have a webcam, so you can't see this, but I'm patting myself on the back here. And you deserve this. Good job. Good job. Seriously, Rush is like the best goddamn character in the Borderlands franchise. I don't know anyone who doesn't like him. And then, when you get to the Ripper Queen area, everybody loves Levine, everybody loves Zane, and honestly, Zane and Levine reconnecting and restarting their relationship, it's really rushed and ham-fisted, but it's cute, so it's fine. But at the end of the day, Zane really doesn't go through any character development at all, and for some reason, Levine just falls for him. Honestly, Levine and Zane have this really toxic relationship where half the things they talk about are sex and how they have really, like, they turn each other on with their kinks a lot, but they can't stand each other on a personal level because they hate how their personalities clash. And that's never really talked about or resolved. Zane just, like, saves the day, swoops in, and saves her city, and she's, like, back to falling for him, which is honestly a little sexist, I'm not gonna lie. I kind of thought we were over this, like, the knight saves the damsel from distress, and all of a sudden she's into him again. No, the reason she broke up with Zane was because he's an immature douchebag. It's his way or the highway, and he's constantly putting them in danger. Levine literally brings this up in the final quest before she says she's willing to date him again, by the way. She literally says to him, oh, so it's your way again. That sounds familiar. And then literally 5 minutes later, they're talking about dating again. And it's like, hold on, what? Like, you know, it's what they're going for is cute, and I'm glad they tried it, but please God, if you're in a relationship where you're attracted to someone, but you literally hate everything about them, and they're constantly putting you in danger, just, like, leave them. You don't actually love them, you know? It's like, and I don't know, I just kind of, I said it again, but I said it before and I'll say it again. See, that's the kind of thing a good YouTuber edits out of their videos. Anyway, this is like, they're trying to present it. I get what they're going for. They're trying to say that Zane has grown over these adventures and he's now a different person, which they do literally say, by the way, at the end of it. When you turn in the final quest after killing the Ripper Queen, Zane is like, I'm a new man. I'm gonna try to be better for Levine, which is cute and it is noble, but he had no fucking character development. In fact, the way the final quest in their chain starts is Zane, without telling anyone, gets so enraged by the death of their Thresher pet daughter thing that he, like, runs off to fight the Ripper Queen by himself. Which literally, like, or no, I'm sorry, this isn't the final quest. This is, like, the second to last quest in their chain. Like, he literally runs off to find the Ripper Queen by himself, which literally puts in danger the one, like, uppity, stupid, annoying kid whose name I don't remember because he was a really annoying character. Like, it literally puts his life in danger, and he could die. Someone can literally die from Zane's childish antics. So, like, he's literally doing the same thing, yet she's hooking back up with him. It's just like, this Gearbox, you don't know how to write relationships. If Zane actually grew as a person, and he actually, like, showed a want to change and be better, this would be a really nice storyline. But the fact that all of Zane's actions literally get people killed literally showing us that, yeah, Levine has a good reason for not wanting to be with this guy, and then just having her hook back up with him again just because he saved the day. I don't know. It genuinely gives me the ick. It makes me feel like it's a little bit sexist. Sorry, I've been talking about this way too fucking long. But anyway, so Vile Lictor. Vile Lictor is barely a presence. He is the one villain where you would not even know he's in the game if people didn't bring him up. Nobody talks about him. Nobody mentions him. See, the Ripper Queen comes back up later, right before you get to the city, so you actually remember her. Idolator's Soul has the benefit of being attached to Rush and the Outbounders and being the first thing you see. He also is one of the best designed bosses gameplay-wise in the entire franchise. The Ripper Queen comes back up again, so you don't get a chance to forget her. What does Vile Lictor have? He's not in charge of a faction. He just uses normal order guys. And his story is not interesting because they refuse to elaborate on it. They don't actually tell us what he wants, just that he thinks he's going to become God or whatever for reaching the plane dimension. Or the phase dimension, which, like, okay, we don't even know if that's true. In fact, his story gets hijacked halfway through by Lilith. Literally, like, the second quest of his chain, we, like, meet Amara, who doesn't even bother talking about Vile Lictor, and just glazes Lilith the entire next two quests, where we have to get a shard to figure out where Lilith is. It also doesn't help that he's attached to one of the worst factions in any Borderlands games, the Augurs. Oh my god, the Augurs are fucking stupid and annoying. The Augurs are just like... the Augur guy that you interact with during the quest, I don't even remember his name, genuinely, because he's just that dumb of a character. He's this little short midget dude that is really energetic and really goofy and is like, you know, his intro is literally him screaming as he's bashing down like 3 robots. He's like a Tiny Tina-esque character, but made for 2025 audiences. So it's like... he's really fucking annoying and dumb and a tired archetype, so you don't particularly like him. The faction that he's attached to has no personality. In fact, they're literally characterized as being paralyzed with fear from the Vile Lictor, the main bad guy. So they literally aren't even given a chance to have a personality, because their entire gimmick is that they don't have a personality, because personality is something Vile Lictor doesn't like and will, like, kill you for. Which, to me, that sounds more like a convenient way to justify not writing a faction, but still wanting to have a faction to fit the theme of good guys versus bad guys. It's just a lazy way to make a generic good guy faction. That's more or less what it feels like. They also have, like, the least amount of quest content. It feels like an unfinished area, genuinely. I'll talk about the area in a second. So, yeah. The main quest is, it's whatever, it's passable. The writing on let's put it this way, they lucked out. The writing for the characters you interact with the most is solid across the board for the most part. However, the writing for the villains is absolutely pathetic. It was a complete fail. Though I will say something in terms of writing, the side quest content is actually really well done. Absolutely bravo to the side quest team. You guys knocked it out of the park. I have enjoyed just about every single side quest I have actually done. I thought they were all interesting. I thought most of the situations were pretty good. Most of the attempts at humor landed. I don't know. I just genuinely like the side quests. Like, for example, the missile. Everybody talks about the missile because it's one of those really good side quests that also happen to be near the start of the game. So it really just starts you off on the right foot. And then most of the side quests follow that. Though I will say there is one that's noticeably terrible, and it's the bank heist vault thing. Just because, like... and this is going to come back much later in this video, like probably in like another 30-40 minutes. You're going to see me run into a bunch of bugs with it. Without bugs, it would be pretty passable. With bugs, it feels bad. But yeah, I would say 70% of the side quests are hits, and 30% are misses. Which compared to Borderlands 3, where the literal only reason you did side quests was for 100% achievements, yeah, that's a huge step up. Okay, so speaking of the map, it's pretty bad. It's the jungle area is good. The city is really well made map design. Seriously, whoever made the city, good fucking job, dude. You deserve a raise. Whoever made the desert, and listen, whoever made the jungle, you get a passing grade. You pass with a B. Whoever made the whoever made the city, you are graduating with high honors. You're really talented. You have a future in this. Whoever made the desert, meet me after class. We got to talk about your homework. And whoever made the Snow Mountain area, see me after class. I think we're going to have to get you after school tutoring. Because, wow, you didn't just fail. You actually made one of the worst things I've ever seen in this game. So, let's start with the good. The city is fucking fantastic. It's super dense with enemies. You can just look. It's oozing with atmosphere. It's dripping with, like, everything is visually interesting to look at. Enemies crawl out of every corner, which is exactly what you'd expect in an authoritarian city. You see the, like, ships in the background. It's oozing, it's dripping with good visual atmosphere. It feels oppressive. It also feels run down. It's perfectly representative of the Timekeeper's mental state. Seriously, like, it's great from a story perspective. It's great. The quests that take place here are all good. It's great from a visual perspective. It's great from an environment perspective. It's very easy to navigate despite being this is what's interesting, right? The city, despite having winding turns and roads and verticality, it's very easy to navigate and not get lost. Whereas the snowy mountain area, I never could tell you where I'm fucking going. I can never tell you where I'm going in that. That area is so goddamn confusing. Okay, the next best area is the jungle. So this is, who'd I say this was? Oh yeah, the B. You get a passing grade. Okay, so you didn't do anything great here. You're not getting an A in my class, but you will get a B. You are going to pass. Because the area serves its purpose. It's a friendly area. It has a lot of warm colors in it, which is really good for a starting area. So the environmental design of the area really does gel with what you want out of a starting area. It does introduce you to some of the more problematic aspects of the game's topography, which comes later in the game. But it also teaches you a lot early on about you're going to have to look up and you're going to have to figure out ways into these crevices. And I found myself not being very frustrated. There was a couple hideouts and silos that made me go like, damn, I have to walk really far away, which is not obvious at all. So that's why you're only getting a B. Because there's a bit too much of walk 200 meters out of field of view to find the actual path to the thing you want to get to, which honestly isn't really your fault too much. It's more or less the fault of the little Jimbo guy, the little guy that flies around that's supposed to give you directions. Honestly, I could see about bumping your grade up to a B+ if your partner made a better system. You got a good idea here, kid, but your group project partner, he really slacked on his job. So, you know, potential B+. Okay, as far as the kids that need to see me after class, whoever designed the desert, you could have done a lot better. The biggest problem with the desert is it's just empty, which I get. It's a desert. It's supposed to be empty, but you and I both know that's the trick of game development. Just because it's a desert and deserts are meant to be empty doesn't mean it actually has to be empty and boring. And I feel like you kind of failed in this regard. The desert is 90% nothingness, and everything is congested into these really small areas. So this compounds as a problem with the Ubisoft game design of place a map marker down and go to that objective and do a thing. Because when you have to drive for 700 meters to an area with nothing but sand and a couple buildings to look at, that's really the problem. Visually, the desert is terrible. It's mostly one solid color, only broken up by other similar colors. You see, the jungle has the luxury of bright greens and like warm, crisp blues for the water. with the ability to introduce some darker browns through the foliage of like the tree roots. The desert is just sand color 90% of the time. And when it's not sand color, it's like concrete road building color. This sucks. I'm sorry to say, but this is just not good. It's all the same general color palette. There's no variety. It's very fatiguing on the eyes after a while. And it's not visually pleasing to look at. There's no interesting topography because it's mostly flat. But you see, you committed one of the cardinal sins of a beginner map designer, which is how I'm pretty confident that the people that made that area of the map were kind of new to this. You made a mostly flat area that has one giant piece of elevation that cuts it in two. This is not fun. Because if I'm on one side of it, the map marker shows me that I'm close to another objective, but the actual distance I have to travel is about 500 meters of a detour where I just have to go around to actually get there. That's not a good look. And it's very frustrating when you have to repeat that multiple times. So, you know. Now, whoever made the snow mountain, let's talk, and let's make sure your peers are out of the room, because we don't want to humiliate you in front of your friends. You did not do a good job at all. So right here, hold on. Let me go back 10 seconds. If you want an example of what I'm talking about, look at this. Look at this area. Boom. We get purples in the night sky. We get these gray rocks that slowly move into these. You could see this cracked up. So this is a broken area. We get all these. Then we get this little bit of industrial. So this is a visually interesting. This is just a random freeze frame, and it's visually interesting. There's distinct colors that aren't from the same palette that highlight different areas of the map. You can clearly see this is a point of interest. There's a point of interest over here. There's something back here in this foliage. Like, you have all sorts of interesting directions that you can go. You have rustic, worn-down shantytown next to this processing plant. Then you get these rippers that come in, which bring this grunge industrial vibe as well. Seriously, if it wasn't for the bad placement of some of the routes to get to the places you need to go, this would be a really top-notch area too, just like the city. So the snow area is terrible. It's one of the worst maps in any Borderlands game. It is 90% verticality. And listen, kid, you gave up. The fact that the way you navigate through half of that snow area is drive all the way to the edge of a mountain, find the one grapple point to get up that mountain. Now you go up and then drive back the way you just came from because of arbitrary, annoying elevation changes. You didn't do a good job. Honestly, what you need to do for that snow area is increase the accessibility points. We need an accessibility ramp here. You need to make it so that... See, this is good verticality because none of this stuff really matters for gameplay, but look at this. We went from an open, lush jungle to now we feel like we're kind of boxed in by these rocks here. And what do you know? This area also contains the creature enemy types. So we're fighting monsters in a very monstrous area. It all fits in nice and good. Also, I have to praise the game again here. These little puddles that just exist randomly, these oases that have these monsters in them, holy shit, this is great for the world. I love this kind of stuff. Honestly, the desert should have a lot more of these. It only has one or two actually that I can think of, which is very sad. Anyway, so the snow area is a huge fucking problem because so often you have to travel 500 meters in one direction just to get to the one grapple point that exists to climb up the mountain, whatever ledge it may be you're trying to get up, to then drive 500 meters back where you just came from. Backtracking for no reason is the worst feeling in a game, and honestly, there are two ways to fail as a map designer, okay? If your map requires if it introduces a lot of frustration and people cannot figure out where to go very quickly, you failed at creating a naturally flowable map. The flow is terrible. If you also require like a lot of backtracking to get to those places, listen, unless you're making Resident Evil and the backtracking is baked into the game intentionally, like for balance reasons, you should minimize backtracking because nobody likes it. It doesn't feel good. So this is an example of what I'm talking about. Did you guys see how the objective marker and the little robot guy were telling me to go over there? Look at how far away I actually have to go to find this objective. You see what I'm saying? Like, this is very confusing to figure out. And then you hit me with this no path found shit. In the city, you never get this experience. But I'm fine with a little bit of an annoying traversal experience if it's mostly good. And also, this is another thing. Can we please add like a glowing green beacon to these things? It's literally got a green light on it. Why don't you just make it flash a little bit when I'm not holding it? That way it doesn't get lost on the ground like that. But yeah, see how far away I have to walk around to actually get to the thing I want to get to? This is annoying. This is cringe. Don't do this, please. Anyway, so on top of it having really bad verticality, the verticality of the snow area wouldn't be bad if there was more traversal options. But instead, 90% of your traversal options are just find the one hook or the one geyser that's not even marked on the map. Just remember it's there, I guess. Which is not fun. To make this even worse, by the way... Hold on, was that a kickballer in the vending machine? Hey, dumbass, put the map down. I didn't even know that could happen. I thought that was a dedicated drop. Anyway, so basically, like, it just feels really shit to drive around that area because that area is so heavily compromised by needing to go up and backtrack. So I don't really have much else to say about the area because it's just fucking empty as well. It's a very empty area that involves a shit ton of backtracking because of bad verticality. Which, I don't know, tell me, does that sound like good to you? Because I don't think it's good. This compounds with making these carry objectives even more miserable, by the way. So, something else to really complain about. This map, and just the game in general, has little to no atmosphere 90% of the time. So, you guys know that Welcome to Firestone song? Ah, hold on. I have to know. I have to know. Was that a kickballer that I just didn't notice? Hold on, you guys can rip my head off for this as well. I think it is. I think it is. I see the blades. I think it is. Anyway, I am going to pull something up. Oh, first off, when I was talking about bugs, look at this. This is a point that's supposed to have a grapple. It just doesn't. This constantly goes into the mountain. You constantly walk through geometry. You constantly get stuck in the search queue. But notice how this game has, like, no music. Welcome to Firestone. So, this game has very, very little music in it. And listen to this. A huge part of the Borderlands vibe was created through the music that it was made. So, this is the song. This is the Borderlands song. This song, it just makes you feel that rustic, like, this is the Badlands so much. We don't need to listen to too much of it, but there is, like, no ambient music in this game. And when someone points it out, you don't notice it when you're playing until someone points it out. This game, if you pay attention, it has absolutely no ambience. It is like no ambient tracks. It is no nothing. It also only has one combat track for each faction. This is a game where you should just turn the fucking music off and play your own. Because the music in this game is so limited, you are listening to the same songs constantly. You don't get ambient music to break up the combat tracks. You don't get exploration music when you're, like, entering a cave for the first time. So it just leads to the game feeling very lifeless a lot of the time. And that leads me to my next point. This planet, Kairos, does not have... Oh, God, excuse me. This planet Kairos has none of the personality of Pandora. The way people talked about Pandora and just the vibe of Pandora was that it was this dangerous place. You can't exist here. You've got to be careful. You know, bing bop boop. Mercenaries die here. They come looking for their fortune and they die here within like a week. You know, if you survive past a week, you're one of the lucky ones. So it really leads to this situation where I felt good in Pandora. Kairos is just a planet, TM. Pandora was like a legendary mythical place. And that also hurts the atmosphere a lot. Because the difference between this hostile border world where everyone's a bandit and you could maybe make your fortune here, maybe you probably just die instead, versus this lush, successful place where nobody really has to struggle. I don't know, man. It's just a weird tonal shift for the series. Something about the side quests in this game is there is a dedicated quest chain, but I really miss characters like Zed and Scooter and Marcus being the ones giving you quests. So you see how I found this quest from this Wild Horde Jenny, or I'm doing this like booze quest or whatever? This is cool. And I like that these quests exist out in the world. The problem is the supporting cast gets like 3 side quests. Like, for example, Rush and the Outbounders have like a quest chain that's like 3 or 4 quests long. You do that and they basically no longer exist. Then it's just random one-off miscellaneous characters, which isn't a problem, but that leads me to my final point before I just start going off the rails and this video loses all structure. This game is not worth the asking price, and it is missing content. Borderlands 4 has like 70 side quests and a main quest that takes about half as much time as Borderlands 2's main quest did. Borderlands 2 had like more side quests, some of which were more involved. It had a much longer main quest, and it had more zones. So like, Borderlands 2 also had a lot more stuff to farm because it didn't have as many balance problems. So any legendary you farmed for was going to be pretty damn good. Obviously there are outliers, but 90% of them you feel a lot better with than just about anything else in the game. Whereas this game, your questing is one-offs. Oh, one final thing I have written down that I want to glaze, the vaults. I love vault hunting. I genuinely wish they would give us a Night Rain style game where literally all we do is, please just give me a Borderlands game. Here, I'll tell you what my perfect Borderlands game is. There's little main quest. The main quest is go do side quests for people to get their help, and on your own, with zero guidance from the game, find vault keys. Or find fragments of vault keys. Put those vaults together, and then find where these vaults are. I think the experience of finding the vault key fragments to put it together, to then find vaults within the world of Kairos, was legitimately, I'm going to be honest with you, the best experience I've ever had in any Borderlands game was in Borderlands 4 right here, when the game was new and I was low level, so I was still kind of weak and vulnerable. When I was weak and vulnerable, and I had to, well, not had, but I was looking for the vaults. When I could barely fight back and I had to actually pay attention to the game to not die, and I had to figure out where the vault keys were, to then figure out where the vaults were, to then, you know, actually do the vaults, I genuinely felt like a real vault hunter. That is a perfect experience. Honestly, I think a Borderlands game that is more about just finding vaults and going from there would be a lot better than a game like this. I really wish they would give us a small Night Rain-like experience that is literally just hunting vaults. I really, really think that it would, like, take off and be a huge thing. Okay, I think that's about everything. I really don't have anything else to say in terms of scripted content. So that's about 2 hours of structured review. I just kind of want to talk about this game. This game is weird as fuck. This is now unscripted, me just free-flowing. Well, it's all unscripted. The way I do this is I write down a one-sentence note like, hey, I really didn't like this. And I write it down when I was playing through the game. Though I should have started way earlier with this game. I wasn't planning on making this video, but a lot of people seem to really like these as background noise. And a 2-hour review of just a guy that played the game a lot talking about it is seemingly a very, like, people really like this format. Which I understand because 10-minute YouTube, typical 10-minute YouTube reviews kind of suck. So just having a guy talk to you like your friend in Discord would about whether you should honestly get the game or not is definitely appealing. And now we're going to go into the part of the video where I just, like, vent about stuff and just talk. This game has a really fucking annoying player base. Like, a really fucking annoying player base. This game has so much of that Helldivers never nerf only buff shit going on that it's a really big problem. Borderlands 3 had one wave of nerfs that caused community backlash, and then people, they got too scared to do anything after that. But, like, guys, everyone... Okay, so the best Borderlands game, Borderlands 2, had a critical set of nerfs. They nerfed so many things in that game. You know there was more nerfs in that game than buffs? But you still think that's the best game. Because good gameplay can't exist alongside disgustingly overpowered things. It just can't. People love to say, well, if you don't like it, then just don't use it. But, like, why do I have to retardify my build so that I don't make the game too easy? Maybe the game should just be balanced so that it's not too easy to begin with. You know, you see what I'm saying? This game also just has the most annoying coverage around it. I mentioned it before, the whole woke bullshit. But, oh my god, guys, Borderlands 3 was like 7 years ago. Let it fucking go, please. Please, God, I get it, okay? I get it. You are making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year for literally spending 30 minutes a day making a video that is just you ranting about the woke leftists eating our society. I get it, okay? I get it. You found a grift and you're getting rich off of it. But oh my god, can you please talk about things that matter and not fucking video games? It's like that retard, the critical drinker, going on and on and on about Star Wars. Okay, man. It was bad. We get it. It's bad. You don't have to make 17 videos talking about how woke and bad it is. I get it, man. It's not a good movie. I don't need to hear for literally 7 years straight, nothing will be as bad as the woke Star Wars, though. That's a terrible impression. I didn't even try on that one. Sorry. But it's just like, oh, also, can we please stop echo logs? I am so sick of this Ubisoft-style bullshit. There is nothing in this game to explore. The map is so fucking empty. The map is so empty and lifeless. Locations only exist for you to have a side quest in them. And it's just like, why? Like, genuinely, why, dude? Why didn't you, like, make these locations have something other than a side quest? And their idea of that is this Ubisoft shit. Remember red chest farming in Borderlands 1? Whatever happened to that? I don't really know if I have anything else to say. I kind of think I covered all of it. Oh, also, this is another game that does this yellow paint shit. Which just, I thought after Resident Evil 4 we were done with this, but I guess not. Do I have anything else to really say? Not particularly. There's nothing else of note to really talk about. Game is super buggy. This game is really fucking short for some reason. I don't know why. This game's main quest is just so lackluster. It feels like it should be twice as long as it is. You know that feeling you get when Lilith lifts Sanctuary and you're in the Wildlife Preservation Reserve? But then again, Borderlands 2 had a problem where it wasn't concise. So maybe this really is just the best Gearbox can do. I really wish there was another area. Like, I really wish... See, it feels like you should get to the city and there should be an area after that. It really does feel like that. But there just isn't. The game just ends there. I don't know. This game feels like it has a lot of cut content. There's a lot they never explain. There's a lot of areas that feel underbaked. Yeah, I think that's everything. I think 2 hours is plenty of review, if you can even call it that.